stay fly, stay fly.
Columbine, Dylan Ruth. Look, evil supremacy has its proxies, and these proxies are trying out for internships.
We got to destroy everything. Somebody was telling me the difference between a revolutionary and an activist. An activist wants to work within the system. They believe in things like constitution, law, government, justice, so on and so forth. The revolutionary wants to destroy the whole thing. We
stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly.
After all that party, the views expressed by the guests are only the views of the guests, unless we say we agree, unless explicitly stated.
So with that said, staying true to the spirit of Crumb TV, in the first 5 minutes, we love to get into it. White privilege. This video is with my big brother, Seiko Varner. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Man, everything is lovely because we're making it so. It is to be. It's up to we.
That's right.
It's up to we.
Well, before we get into this officially, can you tell the people a little bit about who you are and where we can find you at, please?
I'll show you that. So, Seiko Varner, hashtag Mr. Empowerment. I used to be part of the conscious community, and I've kind of veered toward the empowerment community. And so, a lot of the shows that I do are focused on empowerment with a passion for Black empowerment. Now, I'm not stupid. I'm not talking about a crayon color. I'm not talking about a city, a planet, a nation called Black. I'm not talking about a civil term when I use that term. So if I say so-called Black, or if I say commonly called Black, I'm still talking about us. And we can use any of the terms we want to use: Aboriginal, Indigenous, Moorish, Nubian, Neo-Nubian, whatever term. I'm talking about us. So don't trip off of that. I don't set trip. And I realize that some of us have really strong opinions about terminology. I'm just not one of them. So hopefully you'll be able to rock with me. But I focus on empowerment. And tonight, this is going to be an interesting show on empowerment, which is the important piece here, is empowerment.
Absolutely. Just to let the family know also, just so we can make this part clear, he is the host of Get On Code here on Crumb TV. You can catch those on Sundays. So definitely keep an eye out for that. With that said, white privilege, I wanted to talk about the latest news, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Let's proceed.
Okay, so I had a little article here. I thought it was really interesting. Just a regular AOL. I don't know who reads AOL anymore, but it's actually coming from the Griot. That's a little bit better. Anyway, it says opinion. The Rittenhouse privilege has set a precedent, a new legal precedent that permits individuals to claim self-defense in the most outrageous of cases. Kyle Rittenhouse being found not guilty on all counts after more than 24 hours of deliberation can be summed up with one simple phrase: white privilege. It's an all too familiar theme we witness when white defendants are on trial for killing us, the people that good brother Seiko was referring to, the Neo-Nubians. I like that one. The privilege that Rittenhouse displayed and benefited from, however, was clearly on another level. When privilege is raised in the legal arena, it is referred to communications between certain individuals that are protected. Communications between husband and wife, doctor and patient, attorney and client. I dare say Kyle Rittenhouse was cloaked with a privilege you cannot find in any legal precedent. The Rittenhouse privilege is what we're going to call white privilege. From here on out is no longer called white privilege. It's called Rittenhouse privilege. This is Rittenhouse privilege is white privilege perfected. This is high level, grade A, Ivy League. You can't get more privileged than Rittenhouse privilege. This is the creme de la creme of white privilege. This is the Gucci, the Rolls Royce of white privilege is called Rittenhouse privilege. I've beat that horse. Let me continue. Throughout the trial, there were instances in which it was quite apparent that the scale of justice tipped in favor of Kyle Rittenhouse. Let's start with the jury makeup. After the jury process, 18 individuals were selected to listen to the trial. Of these 18 individuals, 12 were selected at random by the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse, to deliberate. These individuals consisted of 7 women and 5 men. Only one was a person of color. The next thing to consider is the venue. The case was tried in Kenosha, which according to census data is over 75% white. In the past, Kenosha County voted Democratic, but went for Trump in the 2016 election. It is also particularly important to consider the fact that Wisconsin is a gun-friendly state, but we must also ask ourselves, gun-friendly toward whom? We saw how the law enforcement drove Rittenhouse, a then 17-year-old, not adhering to the curfew, who had just shot and killed had just killed Anthony Hoover, 26, Joseph Rosenbaum, 36, and injured Gage Grosskreutz, 36. They drove past him, but didn't think twice about firing their artillery at Jacob Blake. One would...
Hey, yo, can you hit that last sentence again?
They drove past him, but didn't think twice about firing their artillery at Jacob Blake.
Oh, okay. Now the Griot, we don't really like them. But that's an interesting point. The Griot was not normally on code, to be honest with you. But to say that the race soldiers, the police officers drove past and they actually gave Kyle Rittenhouse an attaboy, they'd be like, yeah, carry on. But yeah, they did unload their weapons on Jacob Blake. Yeah, that's interesting. All right.
Now, who is Jacob Blake? Is that a brother, I assume?
That is. As a matter of fact, pull up Jacob Blake.
Oh, so they drove past the Tamahu boy and went for one of our brothers?
No, well, see, and I might have my timeline mixed up, but the reason that there was a march, a demonstration in that part of Wisconsin was because the allies, the Tamahu allies, the Albion allies, whatever term you want to use, the AAs were marching to support Jacob Blake. So the reason that Kyle Rittenhouse went to that area is because there was a march because of what happened to Jacob Blake. So when they say they had no problem firing at Jacob Blake, but they gave him an attaboy when they saw him walking with a gun. Yeah, it's the same police department that gunned down the melanated brother here. Is the same police department that saw Kyle Rittenhouse walking with a gun and were like, hey, do your thing. Carry on.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah, so okay. I think that last statement, that's the reason I asked you to go back on it, because that really sets precedent. I don't know about it setting precedents. That really sets the foundation for what I'm going to talk about tonight. Therein lies the white privilege. Therein lies the, what's his last name? Kyle
Rittenhouse.
Therein lies the Rittenhouse privilege.
I want to talk about that, absolutely. But I got to be honest, this isn't even the first time we've seen this.
No.
Did you see the movie The Purge?
I have not seen The Purge yet, man. And MOI keeps telling me I got to see The Purge. And the minister's telling me I got to see it. And I need to see it. I haven't done it yet. However, I've read some articles that relates on The Purge and how the Purge series is really a synopsis on white supremacy.
Right. They're going to basically, it's a movie on how the European is going to get rid of melanated people from out of society. In America, In an America ravaged by crime and overcrowded prisons, the government sanctions an annual 12-hour period during which all criminal activity, including murder, is legal. James Saden, played by Ethan Hawke, and his family face the ultimate test when an intruder drags the vicious outside world into their home. James, Mary, played by Lena Headey, and their two children struggle to survive the night while trying not to turn into monsters like the ones they are striving to avoid. So when this first came out, it was okay to kill people and so on and so forth. And we're like, yeah, that's cool. Allowed to run over protesters. So then I think it was last year they came out with a law where you can run over a protester with your car. Oklahoma passes a law that can protect drivers who run over and kill protesters. This is what we're seeing, the purge in real life, where you're allowed to kill people under certain circumstances. So that's why when people say, yeah, watch the purge, this is what we're seeing. This new white privilege is just us getting one step closer to the purge where they're allowed to kill us. But
I would say that this is in response to the progress that was made as a result of the uprising that happened after George Floyd.
Wow. Now,
I mean, think about it. After the George Floyd incident, the murder, the George Floyd murder, there were a lot of uprisings. And interestingly enough, in the conscious community and in the empowerment community and all the other communities for years, you're like, nobody marches no more. It doesn't do anything. Everyone who got marched ended up getting shot. King got shot. Malcolm got shot. People kept saying it. And so then George Floyd is murdered. And then the uprising happens. And policy changes then begin. In Minnesota, there were actual policy changes that happened as a result. In Virginia, there were policy changes. In New York, there were policy changes. In Florida, there were policy changes. In Georgia, there were policy changes. And so what we see now, and the Rittenhouse case, I believe, is a great example of evil supremacy fighting back. Saying, hey, they had too many wins. We really gotta get a win here. We gotta win here. We gotta get a win here. So the judge was on code for evil supremacy. The judge in this case, the Rittenhouse case, did everything that was use all the tools at his disposal to make sure that Kyle Rittenhouse was able to walk. And I really think it's, evil supremacy is starting to fight back because there's been some gains, some real political gains that have actually happened as a result of the murder of George Floyd.
In light of this and all the other countless episodes of killings, it kind of brought me back to the Casual Killing Act of 1669, where they were allowed to kill us if they felt like we were getting out of hand. And that's, I can't really see a substantial difference within the situation with this, what are we calling them again? This race soldier. I don't really see a difference with this race soldier and any other one. He got into an argument. He felt like they were getting out of hand. He used his privilege and the countless laws set in his favor, and he acted on it. I think what we're seeing, honestly, is really just the same old. If I could also bring out, there's a saying, policy have to have teeth, or policy needs teeth.
Right.
Well, I think it's law needs teeth. Law needs teeth. Putting teeth into the law, meaning there has to be consequences. So
There has to be consequences.
we saw the what did we see? The lynching laws. Do you know when the lynching laws came into effect?
I don't. You know, my mind doesn't work that way. I can't keep certain dates in my head.
It was like
I'm more conceptual.
it's like 10 years ago.
I'm more conceptual.
Now, well, just okay. I guess I'll put it into concept. So we have the lynching era where more of our people, like this whole thing right here, where he shoots somebody. This is a good way to die. I don't want family. Oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Whoa, family, hold on. Remember, during that time, BUR burned and lynched. During that time,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah, they actually tarred and feathered people. Yeah.
they'll lynch you and burn you. So when they shoot
Yeah.
you, don't be crying. That's a good way to die. You know, if the European wants to be, savage about it, he'll show you what a savage is. So don't be crying about getting shot. That's a good way to die. So back in the day,
that picture means so much to me, man. My father had that picture in his study. And I had that picture in my dormitory room at Hampton University. Salute all the Hamptonians. And interestingly enough, I got a chance to meet at that time the vice president, who was Dr. Cologne, during the 86 to 90 time period. And he had that very same picture of the person who was being lynched and burned in his office. And so the thing that's important to me is my father and his father, my father and my grandfather used to, in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m, have to go. Well, they didn't have to, but they chose to cut down the bodies of our ancestors who were, murdered by race soldiers. So he not only saw these pictures, he actually saw about 5 or 6 people lynched. And he made sure that they had their burials, and so I really give a lot of respect to my grandfather and my father for that. This is real, man. They had cookouts. We used to joke about how the word picnic was pick a nigga and kill him. We weren't ever able to really do the etymology and find out that was absolutely factual. But they had cookouts. And this was a social engagement for Europeans here in the United States. So, but back to this situation, what we're dealing with is Rittenhouse privilege. This is an interesting situation because look, a year ago, homeboys beating up some white chick, right? And 2 black teenagers jump in and stop him from beating up this white girl at his school. Later, almost a year to the date that he goes and does this situation, he's caught on video saying, "Oh man, these people at these riots, I wish I had an AR-15. I'd go there and kill them." A year later, his mom takes a 17-year-old young man across state lines with a weapon he didn't have any legal authority to have, in a state he didn't have legal authority to use a weapon. He lies and says he's part of an EMT or a medic or something like that. The cops see him and like, "Hey, yeah, keep doing what you're doing, son." Look, he was going to walk. He was going to walk. The judge was doing everything they could have done. The judge prevented all the information I just talked about with him beating up the white chick, with him being on tape saying that he had an AR-15 because he would go and kill some rioters. They suppressed all of that evidence. He was on walk. That's Rittenhouse privilege. That's white privilege. But to me, I think this situation is instructive for us. So we can see how the devil works. We can see how evil works. And we can force policy now to make sure that judges who are on code for white supremacy and evil supremacy get kicked off the bench. So we can do that. We can do that. Now, is it going to be easy? Nope. Proceed.
Let me say this. I'm not sure who this is or any of the family is, but family, I call the shots around this bit. Okay? I'm King Dingaling around here, huh? Anybody don't like what's going on, you can go home. You can go on anywhere else that you want to go. Block parties are in full effect. I don't care what the Europeans say. It don't matter. We're not playing get along gang either. And I'm not your bro, family. You not all skin folk is kin folk. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm not playing with y'all.
I'm not sure if he one of us.
I'm not sure either. Seth don't sound like Jerome. It might be, but I just want to set the tone just to let everybody know what it is. But nonetheless,
Brother Void Surfer 9 did talk about legal precedence was not set by this case. When I said that we can't trust the root, legal precedent takes a couple of cases before you can set precedents. And then it's one case that truly becomes the overwhelming case. We don't know just yet.
Well, I mean, Brown versus Board of Education, Roe versus Roe v. Wade. You know, one particular case can set precedent, and what's the other one? The Dred Scott case. One case can set precedent, and these are the cases that we always reference as a country. But nonetheless, what I was going to say was, when we look back at the history of America, they have well, with that said, you know, this is the thing. I went to school for 12 years, and I had to listen to what the European said and his side of the story. Then they tried to get me to go to Indoctrination University for 4 years, and I had to get more perspective. Shout out to NSU. They got a white dude teaching African American studies and African studies. Ain't that a bit? So nonetheless, you know, I've heard.
You know, it's funny.
Please.
Yeah, when I attended Hampton University, 86 to 90, we had a white lady who was teaching us Black history as well. It was intriguing. She was an apologist. It wasn't that bad.
Well, you know, unfortunately, it isn't a random coincidence. If you look at it, you're going to see this to be quite the norm. Ask the average person who went to any HBCU, any one of them. Hey, who taught African studies? Oh, a white person. Ask anybody. But, you know, I am your favorite racist, so you know I'm going to ask. But the average Negro, colored, Black may be a little bit scared to ask these questions. Nonetheless, it's the elephant in the room. But going back to what I was saying about the lynching laws, because when the lynching laws came, the lynching era was over by a couple hundred years, a couple decades. And then by the time the lynching laws came in the 90s, there were no maximum whatevers or anything like that. We're not going hard on lynching, you know, and till this day, Black people haven't done too much of anything. Even when we look, you know, because this whole thing with white privilege is what I see for Black people. Mama used to say, they only gonna do to you what you let them do to you. And we let the European do this. And, you know, in terms of legality, we ain't done nothing since, you know, we ain't had nothing but space and opportunity. This is now the standard.
Intriguing. I've seen a lot of policy changes that happened in the last 2 years. But it's only been the last 2 years. So if we look at since 1968 to 2021, yeah, a lot hasn't changed. We ain't been doing nothing.
We just recently received the anti-Asian hate bill, which really slapped us in the face to say, hey guys, if you really think you've come anywhere, we're going to let you know what progress looks like. And a lot of us really, in terms of our leadership and representation, walked away with egg on our face. You guys are, talking you guys when I say us, are the biggest game changers. You'll help somebody get to where they need to go politically or whatever the case may be. But we always know once these people get to their positions, we don't see them anymore. There's no representation. There's no such thing as a constituent. There is no strong leadership anywhere from us. That's why these things are able to happen. We saw how our community literally fought against Ice Cube for even bringing up the idea of any type of agenda. We're gonna vote blindly by faith. It is mandatory to cast what I would say even at this point is an ignorant vote. We're gonna throw our vote into the wind. We're not gonna have any objective. Black people deserve everything they get. This right here doesn't come from, policies. This ain't about policy. This is about power. There's no point to have any policy without power. And for the fact that we're still talking about policy, history is going to repeat itself. The purge is coming, brother. This ain't nothing new. This white boy is a confirmation of our lackluster desire for our place as humans.
You know what? I actually agree with you in total. And so, as I've said earlier, the situation with Kyle Rittenhouse is a really great example of what evil supremacy has done in the past, is still doing, and is trying to set precedents, if you will, for doing. I think it's important that we take a really good look at everything that happened so we can systematically destroy everything that allowed this to happen.
Well, I think regardless of what happened, because it's really the same old, we're still going to celebrate Christmas this year. We're still going to celebrate Thanksgiving this year. Black people are the biggest consumer base in America. We are the consumer class. I don't think much of anything is going to change until we kill the beast. And until we deal with that, it ain't too much of anything.
Are you proposing that because we're not satisfied with this outcome that we should boycott Christmas spending? If you say that, I'm down with it. Now, I don't spend on Christmas anyway. I stopped doing that stupidity 10 years ago. I buy something for my wife because she don't rock with that ideology. But, personally, I stopped doing that dumb stuff years ago. But if you want to say, hey, Crumb says, so we can work on our empowerment, our community empowerment, because of the Rittenhouse verdict, we're going to boycott Christmas spending. I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
Right, absolutely. I totally get it. But the reality is,
at least for the master students. So students. Right. Yeah, at least for the master students and the code keepers. For the master students and the code keepers, as a result, we're going to invest our monies in something else.
Somebody said, I think this video attracted a lot of Europeans. I don't know if they've been here or not. Wait, the host is mixed. How he going to speak for Black people? When he says the host, he's talking to me? Hold on.
I don't think either one of us.
Yeah, he doesn't know. What?
Are particularly dark in complexion. So.
Right, like who are these people? I blocked them, but it just caught me off guard. I'm like, wait, what?
Okay, so he's blocked now. Fine, Scott, You're blocked.
Yeah. But nonetheless, absolutely. I just wanted to see if I can finish this article and go in a little bit more on the things around this European. So it said, we saw, one would have thought because the victim in this case, the victims were white, this case would be open and shut. But the victims who were in Kenosha to protest the shooting of Jacob Blake were villainized and threatened in an all too familiar manner. But in this case, the victims were not Black. By order of Judge Bruce Somebody, the victim in this case would not be referred to as victims by the prosecutions throughout the trial. According to reports, this is a long-standing rule Judge Schroeder has maintained in his court. But when Judge Schroeder's rittenone is God Bless the USA, Trump 2006-2020 campaign song, you just can't help but to wince a little. Look, Kyle Rittenhouse was charged with 7 counts. The state of Wisconsin had the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Rittenhouse committed the 7 counts, which included first-degree intentional homicide with a dangerous weapon. However, before the jury even began deliberating, 2 of the 7 counts, possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18 and failure to comply with emergency order, were dismissed by the judge. God bless America. This is Rittenhouse privilege. Trials can be roller coaster rides. One minute you're up and then the next minute you're fighting to keep it all together. Attorneys expect there to be setbacks because the courtroom is volatile. However, there were critical mistakes committed by the prosecution. You can't pick your witnesses, but there's an unofficial rule when conducting your examination, direct or cross. Don't ask a question that you do not know the answer to. During direct examination, Ryan Balch, who walked around with Rittenhouse patrolling the streets in Wisconsin, testified that Rosenbaum acted in a hyper-aggressive manner. Richard McGinnis testified that John Rosenbaum went to Rittenhouse and attempted to reach for the gun when Rittenhouse shot him. Later, during cross-examination, Gross Kreutz testified he thought Anthony Hoover attempted to harm Rittenhouse. These statements alone were key in the claim of self-defense. When claiming self-defense, the defendant cannot be the aggressor. It was necessary for the jury to find Rittenhouse believed there was an unlawful threat to him and that the amount of force he used was reasonable and necessary. This is why Rittenhouse testified insistently that he used force necessary to remove the threat to him. But none of the victims who were killed were armed. Rittenhouse brought a gun to a fist fight. Rittenhouse cried with his crocodile tears, used his privilege, and convinced the jury that he was walking around in Kenosha past curfew with an AR-15 because he was trying to deliver medical aid? Bruh. All right, I mean, please, chime in if you will, or I'll continue. It's up to you.
No, brother. I mean, look, this was, the judge was on code for evil supremacy. Rittenhouse is a proxy for evil supremacy. And evil supremacy uses the government structure and all the other systems it's built to protect its soldiers and its proxy men. And so Rittenhouse was a proxy man. So they're going to protect them. And we need to look at this as an example, and we need to find the cracks in the armor. And we need to really build policy, do activity, do everything we can to make sure that we can defeat this evil. And I know some people will be like, I know we can do, we've been trying, black people ain't gonna do nothing anyway. They hadn't been doing anything since 65. I get all that. But it only takes a few. So for those few code keepers, We need to look at the situation that happened, look at everything that happened, and make sure we can defeat this when it happens again. Because, history repeats itself.
Well,
and this is going to happen again.
When you say code keepers, those few code keepers, I I can't help but to wince a little bit, because this is the standard all throughout America. To even frame it as a few is a gross understatement. When we have policies, current policies in place, like dealing with urban blight and urban decay. I think it's called divestment. Divestment. I think it's urban divestment. I think that's what it's called. Urban divestment. So urban divestment in general, or municipal, is a term used in the United States which describes an urban planning process in which a city or town or other municipal entity decides to abandon or neglect an area. It can happen when a municipality is in a period of economic prosperity and sees that its poorest and most blighted communities are both the cheapest targets for revitalization as well as the areas with the greatest potential for improvement. It is when the city is facing urban decay and chooses to allocate fewer resources to the poorest communities and communities with less political power. And disenfranchised neighborhoods are slated for demolition, relocation, and eventual replacement. I'm not sure, how you could, even frame it as a few when this is the standard. The family, we see, George Zimmerman is in chill mode. This is not a coincidence or I'm sorry, not a coincidence. This is not a random whatever. The term escapes me, but I think the reality is that the whole system, we got to destroy everything. Somebody was telling me the difference between a revolutionary and an activist. An activist wants to work within the system. They believe in things like constitution, law, government, justice, so on and so forth. The revolutionary wants to destroy the whole thing. Our problems aren't within a few. Our problems are fundamentally from the core of this very government, even down to the Constitution itself. So to even say a few, I'm not sure if you see the magnitude of what's really happening.
When I said a few code keepers. Yeah. I was speaking to my folk. Like when you talk about the master students, you talking about your folk. We ain't talking about the rest of them, because the rest of them have caused this urban blight. So yeah, I do think that those few code keepers and those few master students, because when I say few, we may only be 15,000, 20,000 numbers, but we can get some stuff done. And so I like the idea about the activists and the revolutionary. We need more of both of them. I want to salute, who's this, Fallout Boy? Yeah, I agree. The whole system, Fallout Boy. But Fallout Boy also said earlier, policy. And let me make sure I'm being heard. Go up a little more. He's like, policy? I'm like, dude, policy is only part of the thing that can happen. We got a lot of things that we can do. Policy is only part of it. But I realize that some folk are like, we just need to destroy the whole system and start over. I'm cool with that too. If you do it, we can do it.
Right.
But if you're not doing it, I'm also working with those who are trying to work through policy as well as other means. And so I'm for it all.
During 9/11 in the Middle East, there was chants, head of gold, body of stone, feet of clay. Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
Well, that's from the Bible. Head of gold means you're financially smart. You can make money. They'll never destroy you financially. Body of stone means you have a strong military. They'll never penetrate you that way. Feet of clay means you have a weak foundation. Metal and stone are very heavy. Clay can't support that. And that Babylon is going to fall under its own weight. And that's per the Bible, the Middle East, so on and so forth, other revolutionaries, whatever the case may be. But, when we see with America, for me, I believe, it's going to fall under its own weight. Now, what I would...
So let's push it.
Right. We saw with Martin Luther King, the biggest thing he did, in my personal opinion, was not getting that Voting Rights Act, which was a temporary act that they now, because at first they went back and changed it every year, then it was every 7 years, then everything like 12 years, then 25 years. Now they go back and see if they still want us to be able to vote every 25 years. But nonetheless, that was not the biggest thing he did. The biggest thing Martin Luther King did was the Montgomery bus boycott. With that Montgomery bus boycott, the Montgomery, Alabama was the 8th biggest metropolitan city in America. How many streams of income do you need to be the 8th biggest metropolitan city in America? So for all those streams of income that they had, Martin Luther King just took one stream of income and said, hey, we're just not going to ride the bus. That's all we're going to do. And with that said, within, I think, with not 365, maybe 367 or 370, but within a matter of days after a year, they wanted to come to terms because unless you cripple them, these people, they're Tamahu, they're Flugelrod, they're the Albions, as you were saying. And I think it was one of their philosophers said that the pineal gland is the seat of the soul. And we know that 85% of their pineal glands are calcified, so they don't even have a soul or a place for the soul to sit within the human or mankind's body. With that said, they don't understand anything other than being brought to a heel like an animal. There's nothing that they respect. When we go look at the treaties they wrote, I think thus far they've violated every single treaty. They haven't honored one treaty, and for me, if 'cause that's what Hitler did. Hitler said, all right, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then he did it. All right, I'm not going to do it anymore. How did y'all hate Hitler and you were so mad at Hitler that every time he signed policy and it went into effect and then he railroaded? I can't believe he did that. Well, you do the same thing. How was he evil for doing it? But you're not evil for doing it. And what we're seeing now is just a confirmation of the same old. We can't have faith in the system anymore. At this point, as you were saying, we need an expedited shutdown. Alt Control Delete this thing.
I say that. I wanted to add a little more depth to the conversation. We talked about the Montgomery bus boycotts. That simple act of saying, hey, we ain't riding the bus no more, it actually bankrupted the city. The city was bankrupt. And it started with the buses. And then the people got on code. And they're like, you know what? We ain't going to your restaurant. You know what? We're not going to your store. You know what? We're going to keep our money cycling within our own community. They almost bankrupted the city. They bankrupted the city, and we were keeping our money within our own community. So while the city and the businesses were bankrupt, we were profitable. That's why things changed. And that wasn't the only city that NAACP and SNCC and all the other groups that were working with Dr. King were successful in. But I would agree with you that was one of the zeniths of Dr. King, peace be upon his name. that was some of the great things that Dr. King did. You know, wasn't his speech. And he put himself around some really good folk, man. And they did some stuff where, you know, of course the marches were just to get, you know, the cameras and awareness. But they did some things behind the scenes, the negotiations, the saying, hey, you got to rock with us or we're not rocking with you. The economic boycotts and some other things that truly made changes. And people, for some reason, only deal with the boycotts and stuff. One of the things, though, I think there is an area where the civil rights movement really neglected. And I think they often dropped the ball. And we'll use this as an example. So we had the Edmund Pettus Bridge where they had Bloody Sunday. Now, after that situation with the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday, Dr. King and the organizations he was working with, they hired the Deacons for Defense of Justice, which was a Christian gun club, a black Christian gun club. And so at the very next march, the Deacons for Defense of Justice, that black gun club, those riflemen were there protecting the marchers. So we didn't have that same level of destruction, that same level of violence that happened to the marchers because we were there with guns. What we should have done, what we could have done, and I think we still can do, is we know which police officers were working those shifts. You know, we know exactly which police officers were at Bloody Sunday. We should prosecute them. We should prosecute them. We should go back and prosecute them because they harm people without any reason. They sick dogs. They turned on the water hydrants. They harm people without any reason. We should go back and prosecute them all. We should go back and sue the cities. And if we do that, you're going to see some things change. And I think that's one of the areas where we kind of fell short. You know, we got to punish people for harming us. There has to be a consequence. We got to punish those people. You know, we got to find a way to punish Kyle Rittenhouse's mother. We got to find a way to punish that judge. And those things can be done. So, activist, revolutionary, all of y'all, get on code. We need to punish those people, and things will change.
Well, let me say this because, white privilege runs deep. White privilege runs deep.
It sounds like a song. White privilege runs deep.
You some funny, still waters run deep.
That's a song, bro.
Right? Yeah. That's what. Yeah, still waters.
We should get one of the master students who can sing that. Go ahead and do that. That'll be one of the theme songs for Crumb TV.
That's funny.
So we talk about crazy stuff. We click. White privilege runs deep.
Do you remember Daniel Holtzclaw?
Yes.
He raped he was a police officer, white guy. He raped 30 black women on the job. And remember, they crying in the courtroom. They locked his monkey ass up. He's in jail. Oh, black people got justice. You remember what happened to him? You remember?
No. Go deeper with the story because I remember something happened, right?
Come on, black people. Come on, black people. White privilege runs deep. These people will hold on. These people will get locked up, go to jail, and Jeffrey Epstein, they wait out the goddamn prison. White privilege run deep. Daniel Holtzclaw has disappeared from the Oklahoma Department of Corrections website. The former Oklahoma police officer was convicted of raping women while on duty. The website, which shows criminal convictions, mugshots, and where inmates are incarcerated, has deleted Holtzclaw. By all intents and purposes, he's not in prison anymore. Not because he served his sentence, because of seemingly white privilege. Yeah, let's lock him up. Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein got locked up. So talk black to me.
Yeah.
Talk black to me.
These situations are crazy. And I think, once again, that, Kyle Rittenhouse, whatever his name is, that situation is instructive. And we should learn everything we can on how to destroy the system by the tricks that were pulled in that particular situation. But I don't want us to get too wrapped up. I don't want us to get too wrapped up on Kyle Rittenhouse, because we still need to fight for Tamir Rice. We still need to fight for Breonna Taylor. We need to still fight for Jacob Blake. And you're saying we know. So you're saying we don't?
No, I'm saying when you have a fever, don't get rid of the fever. The fever is the effect, not the cause. What you're talking about is the effect. Us getting rid of the effect is not working. We have to get rid of the cause.
Okay, all right. What? I don't follow your logic here.
So now you get rid of dealing with a jab. The jab doesn't stop you from getting sick. The jab stops you from getting sick to that extent. You won't get that high of a fever.
Right.
So now you can live with the sickness. This allows you to become a human incubator for the sickness to build up. You treat the cause, you treat the effect and allow the cause to fester. So the next wave that the cause is going to give you an effect for is going to be worse. We've been dealing with the effects. We've never head on dealt with the cause. And if we have, they've met that with serious force and aggression. Martin Luther King is dead for a reason.
Okay. I see what you're gunning at. I think that the problem is white supremacy. Our system is based on white supremacy, evil supremacy, and we should destroy it. And my strategy is by studying situations like Kyle Rittenhouse, seeing exactly how evil supremacy got away with what it got away with, so we can destroy the system. So I don't think that we should focus on Kyle Rittenhouse, but he's instructive on how we can destroy evil supremacy.
Well, and Ashe. And I just want to say, in terms of him, you're absolutely right. There's honestly no need to focus on him. This is only a reconfirmation of the endless amounts of confirmations we've had. There's an elephant in the room. And this right here is just another ripple from him bumbling around. There's a bull in the china shop. How much confirmation do you need? Oh, more stuff broken. So no, I don't want to, to your point, focusing on this dude is only, just saying, hey, there's a problem. And we very much know there's definitely a problem. For this, I, want to focus, as Kevin Samuel says, on the critics and detractors. There are people right now that will say there's no such thing as white privilege. They'll say there's no such thing as or the system's not broken. For the people that know what's going on, already know what it is. Absolutely, this is only beating a dead horse. This is preaching to the choir. But for those people out there who still believe, like, maybe this is their tipping point. Maybe this is that Fred Hampton moment that, where they just go shoot up shoot up a man while he's asleep. Like, man, he was asleep. He won't resist an arrest or nothing. He was knocked out, or whatever the case may be. But let me just see, can I take another stab at this article? Do you mind? I think it was only like one more paragraph.
All good. Hey, we're talking about Rittenhouse privilege, so let's continue.
The Rittenhouse privilege weaved its way into the cracks of the courtroom of Kenosha. We knew the tactics that would be played. He's white, he's male, and, to use the words of Judge Schroeder Rittenhouse, he is brazen. He walked his way into the courtroom, just as audaciously walked past the brigade of police vehicles while carrying an AR-15 across his body, crossed state lines, went home while Rosenbaum and Huber lay dead in the streets of Kenosha. He slept like a baby that night, and you were talking about his mama. I want to remind the family of Columbine. Folks want to talk about Columbine. My movement is Palestine. My sidekick came from Columbine. That's a little bit of a rhyme, but nonetheless.
It was good. It was good. Bars.
Bars. The dude who shot up Columbine, his mama wrote a book and vindicated him. Did you know that? Mom of Columbine shooter writes book. A Mother's Reckoning, Living in the Aftermath of Tragedy is a 2016 memoir by Sue Klebold. I don't know if her name is Sue. I don't know if her name is Karen. I don't know if her name is Becky. I'm just joking. Her name is Sue. The mother of Dylan Klebold. Along with Eric Harris, Dylan was one of the perpetrators of the Columbine High School massacre in 1990. This book right here, she wrote a what is the opposite of a scathing review? Her review of what happened in terms of the Columbine shooting was sympathetic, was empathetic, it was watered down, it was whitewashed, it was beautified, it was sanitized. The story she told of what happened painted her baby as Saint, what is his name, Cody? Saint Dylan of Columbine. Until there is a African proverb. Until the lion has his own historian, the glory of the hunt will always go to the hunter. Let me see. Bear with me. Chinua Achebe. He wrote the book Things Fall Apart. Chinua Achebe, the prominent Nigerian novelist and essayist who died on Thursday, said in a 1994 interview with the Paris Review, there is a great proverb: until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Shout out to Chinua Achebe. Things Fall Apart was the book he wrote. Shout out to him. But these people have the audacity, the privilege to massacre the people, and then they'll write themselves into history as either the victims, as either the heroes, or somebody that you can relate to. That's white privilege at its best.
Well, it looks like the author, like Reese said, Becky Sue Klebold. It's probably Becky Sue.
Right.
And her middle name is Karen.
Right, I'm sure.
Becky Sue Karen Klebold.
Not today, Karen. I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
Listen, Linda.
Right.
No, man. This white privilege runs deep.
Right.
We need a master student who has a beautiful voice to create that recording. White privilege runs deep. Send it to us. We get it on. It'll be on Get on Code anyway.
So this is just another Columbine, Mark Zimmerman. What's his name? Mark Zimmerman? Was it Ted Zimmerman?
Hey, Columbine, Dylan Ruth. Look, white evil supremacy has its proxies, and these proxies are trying out for internships, and they're trying to get down with the big boys, and so they're going to go out and do some stuff like this. And as we see now, for the first time, scot-free. Dylan Ruth didn't get away scot-free.
Well, that we know of, because Daniel Holtz didn't get away scot-free either, but apparently he did. This whole white supremacy thing is a rock and a hard place for us, but it's a slippery slope that they just manage to always get away somehow. When I think about Daniel Holtz, when I think about Jeffrey Epstein, when I think about these white people who have this power to get out of jail free card, because go back and go back to Monopoly, get out of jail free card did not have Jerome up there. The get out of jail free card did not have Leroy up there. The get out of free jail card had Mr. Holtzclaw up there, white dude with the monocle. But nonetheless, with that said, this is a thing that in all scenarios, well, that's hyperbole. In most scenarios, they're able to get out. If the government wants you, they're going to get you. If the government is going to give you a bly or some type of advantage, matter of fact, it was affluenza, rich white kid in Texas drunk driving. I remember that. Good brother Seiko, do you remember this case?
I do. I don't remember all the details, but
white.
I tell you, like I said, man. Well, I think we've said before, evil supremacy protects its soldiers. Ooh. And everyone we just talked about was a soldier for evil supremacy.
Ethan Couch, that was him. White boy, because this is the same situation as happened in Wisconsin. So Ethan Couch, at age 16, killed 4 people while driving under the influence on back in 2013 in Texas. Couch, while intoxicated and under the influence of drugs, was driving on restricted license and was speeding in a residential area when he lost control of his vehicle, colliding with a group of people assisting another driver with a disabled sport utility vehicle. 4 people were killed in the collision and a total of 9 people were injured. 2 passengers in Couch's pickup truck suffered serious injuries, with 1 passenger suffering complete paralysis. Couch was indicted on 4 counts of intoxication, manslaughter for reckless driving under the influence. In December of 2013, he sentenced him to 10 years of probation. He got 10 years of... See, this is the thing. They get found guilty. Brother, did you see the movie Goodfellas? In the movie Goodfellas, they talked about their experience in jail. And the Goodfellas, their jail experience, going to prison, going to jail, wasn't like our experience going to prison, going to jail. Their experience going to jail would be the equivalent of, because these white collar crimes, would be the equivalent of Martha Stewart. Remember when she got her dose of white privilege, they sent her to Camp Cupcake for prison? Martha Stewart went to jail for insider trading, and they sent her ass to Camp Cupcake to serve time.
Cupcake.
Go look
That's
it up.
good. That's good.
No. I didn't make that up. The place where she went, they call it Camp Cupcake. Brother, white privilege run deep. Ain't nobody playing with y'all.
I ain't playing with you. We ain't playing with you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. White privilege runs deep, bro. So I think, and I might be wrong. I might be, what's the word I want to use? I might just feel, that we can accomplish what we will. Rise up, you mighty people, you can accomplish I might truly believe what Garvey said. But I think we can destroy the system. And I think we can look at the situation with Kyle Rittenhouse and we can find the cracks in the armor. And when it happens again, we can be better prepared to really destroy. One thing that can happen is we can compel the elected officials in our areas to weigh in on their thoughts on the verdict. And those who decide that, oh, it's not in my purview, it has nothing to do with us, we can punish them politically. And those who say, you know what, we need to make sure that all Americans are safe, we can maybe work with them a little more. You know, my point is, we can take this situation and leverage it to our benefit. And I hope that more of us do. I know the code keepers are going to do that. Those who try to get on code, we're going to do that. We're going to take this situation and leverage it to our collective benefit. And I love the way, Crumb, in the past, you've talked about the hour. Sister Rodriguez talks about the we, which is a Jewish term, THE, capital WE, the we. Because you can say we, but when you talk about the we, you're talking about those of us who were truly invested in making change. So I love the fact that you really say that, you know, an individual experience is not important. It's the collective experience that's important. So I hope that a lot of us collectively get on code, use this situation, leverage it, because they're going to try to leverage it right now. You know, you mentioned that it might be setting precedents. Okay, I don't know. They're going to try to leverage it. We need to leverage it now to make sure that we, as you put it down, as you said earlier, chant down Babylon. We got to do that. We got to get on code. We got to take opportunities like this and make changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's been a little bit more than an hour. I really enjoyed your perspective. I really enjoyed you adding value to the whole conversation. I think we've covered lots of topics, you know, and not even really just focused on the latest incident. You know, these people are just, they're incredible, but I digress. Could you tell the people who you are and where they can find you at?
Oh man, hey, Seiko Varner, at Seiko Varner. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on IG. You might find me on Facebook. I really hate social media. But you can find me there anyway. You can also find me as DJ Seiko Varner because I do wedding receptions, corporate events, and other events of that nature. But our show is called Get on Code. And the code that we talk about is empowerment. It's based loosely on Neely Fuller's compensatory code for the Negro. And he has a whole system on empowerment and getting on code. Our code is really simple. Empowerment with a focus on Black empowerment. And we're succeeding. We're accomplished in taking situations like this Kyle Rittenhouse situation and leveraging that situation for our collective benefit. And I hope you join us. Get on code. You can find our content on Crumb TV as well. On Sundays, you can find our content on the Our Black Empowerment channel on YouTube. And once again, at Seiko Varner, Twitter, IG, hit me up. But most importantly, man, get on code. Most importantly, sis, get on code. And the code is empowerment. Everything you should do should empower you. Food you eat should empower you. I'm working on that. I'm not good at that yet. I still love the sugar. I still got that addiction to the sugar. Yeah. Everything you read should empower you. Everything you do with your body should empower you. You know, what you invest your monies in should empower you. Invest your political attention and political resources should empower you. Read the Talmud. That should empower you. Read the Bible. That should empower you. Read the Quran. Read the Habagila. Read the words of Ifa. You know, read the Meduna Ter. You know, those things will empower you. Be one. And if you are one, you recognize one, be one.
Stay fly, 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 stay fly.
The views expressed by the guests are only the views of the guests, unless we say we agree. Unless explicitly stated.
Stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly.
Stay conscious. Stay fly.